How long have you known each other then?
We met in 1985 in
Right.
Pentonville.
20 years
I was
ago.
doing 4 years, and Paul, I think, was doing 2.5 years.
3.5.
3.5. And that's when we first met.
Steve, tell us a bit about, because, well, it was through Paul that you...
Well, what actually happened, I have a very similar walk with my childhood to Paul. I was given away and adopted at a young age and ended up in care homes. I actually ended up, because I was uncontrollable, at 10 years of age, I actually was put into isolation in a cell for 3 years and basically left there. And started, I think, at that time to grow to hate the world, and built a brick wall for love, emotions, everything to carry me further in to my life. My life was going to be a very lonely life, and I didn't want no emotions, no love, and it didn't exist. I didn't receive it as a child. I didn't want it. I didn't know it. I didn't understand it. And as life went on, I started to get into a very bad, addictive lifestyle in crime. That really, the addiction of the cycle of crime, basically started to run into my later life, and I'm going to bypass all of my life and bring us right up to later in my life. That I actually got into an addictive lifestyle of committing about 8,000 crimes a year. Some police officers say that possibly one of the most prolific criminals in the country doing the particular crime I was doing. But if I was doing 4 years for that one crime, you know that they were pretty serious crimes. But I was doing 8,000 a year. I was currently on bail. I had a wife, 3 children, 1 newborn child, and 2 youngsters. And my wife loved me to pieces. I didn't love my wife. I didn't love my children. I've never loved them. I've never loved anybody. They're just a means to a reduction in sentence, a tool that you use in the cycle of addiction of the crime and criminal life that I lived. And Paul, obviously you've heard his testimony. I got arrested for a drugs charge with intent to supply Class A. I've no previous for that. That's not one of the addictive crimes that I've done. But I was looking at 5 years in prison for that. I got bail. Paul had this experience at Faith Camp. For bits and pieces of our life since Pentonville, we have been partners in crime on and off. But I think that I was a little bit too much for Paul, and my addiction in crime was by far faster than Paul. Paul was drugs. If he got his money, he had his drugs. I just wanted to carry on committing crime. The money part of it had totally left me. So I phoned up Paul and I said, I've been arrested for this, and, you know, as the months had gone on, he had that experience at Faith Camp. He started getting on the telephone. You know, I've gone to Faith Camp and I've, you know, God's spoken to me, and, you know, Steve, all you got to do is change your plea and accept Jesus into your life. And I said, Paul, do us a favour, go away, you know, and leave me alone. You know, I've got to accept that. I've got a sentence coming and prepare myself for it. The only way I can prepare myself for it, that's to close all doors and get ready to go in there, lie my way into a reduction in sentence, use all the mitigation that I can. Whilst on bail, he's still phoning me up every other day, talking to me over the phone. I mean, he's really, you know, really on fire, you know, and he really wants to sort of get through to me. But I couldn't, you know, I wouldn't want to listen to any of that. And I'm still out committing criminal activity all the time whilst on bail. About 6 months had gone, I was still on bail for a Crown Court for the drugs. I got arrested for 7 crimes. about 100 miles away from where I live. Police officers came around. I was babysitting my boy. He was about 7 or 8 then. My wife and the baby were out. The police came in, smashed the door in, came in. My little boy was terrified. He hid behind the settee. They took me away. He went into a neighbour's. I went to the police station. Solicitor was called. I sat in the interview room and I thought, well, that's it, it's over now. I'm going to get remanded in custody. I've breached the bail that I'm on for the intent to supply drugs. I've got 34 previous convictions. I've been in prison and out of prison for 24 years. This is it. So I accepted I was going to go to remanded in custody, waiting sentence. And I sat in that room and I made a statement that I am out of control, that I'm committing 6,000 to 8,000 crimes a year, and it has to stop today.
You made that in your statement?
Yes.
It's an unusual statement to make.
If I had an answer, Eleanor, why I wrote that, then I couldn't give it. I really could not give it now. I don't know why. My whole life has been no comment, no comment, no comment. I never do the job. That the police are paid to catch me. I'm not paid to actually catch myself. My solicitor advised me that if you actually sign that statement, then you're looking at the maximum 14 years, and they will give you it. I said, but it doesn't matter. It's got to end. And I signed that statement, and he said, I'll see you in court in the morning, which I got ready for my night in the cells and court appearance, remand in custody. And they came down and gave me my property and told me to go home, that they bailed me. And the solicitor was dumbfounded. I was dumbfounded. I thought, well, I've just told them that I can't stop committing it. In 48 hours, I've committed 7 crimes. Now, each crime would carry 3 years, and yet they've released me. Now, I can't understand what's going on here. Paul, I've phoned up Paul, I've told him that I've just been arrested again. He said, well, you know what you've done? You've gone in there, you've opened your heart for the first time in your life, told the truth, and the Lord has set you free. Now I said, well, I don't know about that, Paul. I think, you sure? So I said, yeah, well...
If I could just say, sorry.
Yeah.
What has happened with me is I was praying for Steve really, really passionately, with compassion, tears, everything. I was really praying for the guy. And God spoke to me and said to me, Paul, if you can get Steve to tell the truth, then I will set him free. Wow. And that's why I kept telling Steve, you've got to change your plea. You must tell the truth. And he's saying, are you mad? So I said, Steve, don't ask me how I know. If God says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You know, and that's basically where he was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting all of this over the phone, but I'm not believing it. I've got 2 prison sentences, and I've now got to prepare. You've got basically 2 routes. You either run and don't appear, or you go in and you do it. There is no other. That's it. The crime had stopped. The crime had stopped. I don't know why, but the crime had stopped. It was about 3 weeks on, and I was driving past. Paul had now come from a heroin addict. He'd gained 4 stone. He was married. Well, not married, but he was living with his girlfriend. His life was turning. He was working. He was happy. And I pulled up outside a church in the town. Strange, it was called St. Paul's. And it was about, I always remember the time, it was 1:45. And I pulled into their car park. I've never been in a church. I don't think I've been in a church since I was 7 years old. And I went in, I sat down, the door was open, I sat down, it was empty. And I think envy took me in there, maybe jealousy took me in there, because I was looking at Paul's life and looking at the total mess that I was in at the moment. And I sat in there and I just said, you know, God, why, if you can change Paul's life, that you cannot change mine? And he never answered me.